Hey, what's up everybody? Jumpin here, and today this is going to be continuing my new series, which is all my builds. This is going to be all the engineers in the game. So, that is what is up. Now the thing is though, guys, as you may know, the engineers are by far considered to be one of the best classes in the game, and probably one of my favorites. So I think engineers are amazing. So let's go ahead and get started with this. We're going to be starting with the Human Engineer, which recently I did a video for this, and that is what is up. And the gun I recommend is going to be the Service Harrier. You're going to see a lot of Harrier builds. So if you don't have the Harrier, there's other guns you can use, but unfortunately, a lot of these engineer builds are very good with Service Harriers. Or at least the Harrier makes the build better. Alright, so the attachments normally for the Harrier I recommend is going to be extended magazine and extended barrel. Now the thing is though is that you could use piercing. That's actually okay as well. Personally though, if you want the best out the best though, you really do want the extended magazine, because you're going to be able to pump in a lot of bullets and kill a lot of enemies this way. The piercing is decent, but it's just better to rock armor piercing 4. So that is the thing, guys. So it's really up to you what you want to do or not. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into the build. Now this was my troll drone build, if you remember right. And I'm going to be using detonate on the drone, shock for just stunning across 5 meters, and then chain lightning for just hitting multiple targets for stun. The whole idea of the drone, guys, is just to seek out enemies and distract them. And once they're distracted, you can shoot them and overload them. And the drone, if they attack it, which they will, if it blows up, it's going to do a decent amount of damage. So that's the whole idea of the drone. Incinerate, I personally think that Incinerate is not that great of a power. And unfortunately, most of the engineers in this game actually get Incinerate. So I don't know what BioWare was thinking about Incinerate. Why did they decide to put it on so many different classes? But they did. So it's really whatever. But that is the thing, guys. So like I said, Incinerate to me is not that good. So I would normally recommend, if you're going to go for it, leave it at 3. Just because it is decent against like Reapers and armor targets. So there's no point not to at least get it to 3. Now for Overload, which is definitely the best power that the Human Engineer gets. You're going to want Chain Overload. Recharge speed. A lot of people like Neural Shock. I don't like Neural Shock just because I don't like enemies falling down. It's trolly. And the reason why I say it's trolly is because if I Neural Shock something, I'm going to make it fall down. And I'm like the only person who probably really knows that I have Neural Shock and that the enemy is going to fall down. So if your teammate is shooting at this enemy, what might happen is that they will fall down, and then your teammate will just totally miss them, and then have to adjust their aim to try to shoot the enemy. Now I know you're going to say, well, isn't that stealing kills? Yeah, technically, but the thing is though is that this game's not about who gets the most kills. It's about killing the enemies together and working as a team. So Neural Shock to me is just kind of trolly. I don't like it when someone on my team is using this and then they overload the enemy that I'm shooting at, and it falls down, because then I have to adjust my aim and shoot. I mean, I don't know. So that's what I think. That's my personal opinion about Neural Shock. So I like the recharge speed a lot better. And then finally, shield damage. This is really good for Overload. Pretty much consistent in what I like to. This is the way I always will build Overload. The shield damage to me is very important, just because with this you're going to be able to take down most enemy shields on gold and most enemy shields on platinum, so keep that in mind. Now for alliance training, I like damage and capacity for the more power damage and weight, power damage of course, and then finally weapons damage. And then for fitness, I actually only leave this at 5, so I go for durability and shield recharge. You don't really need fitness expert, just because if you strap on some type of cyclonic modulator, you'll be fine. So keep that in mind. Alright, now moving on to the Quarian female engineer. She is by far considered to be the weakest engineer and probably the most underused character in this game. Which is unfortunate, because she's actually okay. She's not like terrible, but she isn't like super good. And guys, I once again forgot to bring this up in the beginning, but if you want to find any gameplay with any of these characters, then go ahead and read the description. I will link gameplays to each of these. Also, yeah, you can look at the annotations if you're on a PC and maybe not a device, and you can find gameplay links in the annotations to any of these engineers. So go ahead and look at that and check that out if you want to see it. Alright, now for the Quarian female engineer, like I said, she's considered to be probably the worst in the game. But she's really not super bad, only because Cryoblast is a very good team power. It's not necessarily very good for you, but it's very good for you and your team. So, mainly because it debuffs like crazy. It's like probably the best debuff power in the game, to be honest. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into the weapon. The weapon I recommend is the Talon, just because recharge speed doesn't really matter. Now, I know I have 200%, but until you get to Talon 10, you will not have 200%, so keep that in mind. But her recharge speed is not a big deal, so don't worry about that. And what I like about the Talon is the fact that it can set up tech bursts so easily. So what I recommend doing with her is using piercing and extended barrel, and then strapping on disruptor rounds. More than likely, disruptor rounds 4 is the best way to go. And the idea is that you're going to be cryo-blasting enemies and then shooting them. Once they get the electrical field around them, and you'll be able to tell because it's pretty obvious, once you see that, then you can incinerate them for a tech burst. And because they're already debuffed, that tech burst will like kill them. So that's like, in my opinion, the best way to play with her, to make her a tech bursting, cryo-blasting, debuffing beast. And she's very good for that, and that's the way I think that she's great. Alright, now moving on to the build. Sentry Turret. I do not like Sentry Turret. In the gameplay that I have linked, I were using Sentry Turret, and I didn't like it then, and I still don't like it now. So I would actually recommend, if you can do it, is to reset her, take the Sentry Turret totally off, and then make the build with the rest of the powers. So for Incinerate, I recommend Damage, because I mean, look how strong that is. 643 points. That's pretty freaking strong. Burning damage, just because burning damage, it does do a decent amount of DPS over time. And then finally, armor damage, just for doing more damage to armor and boss level enemies. Moving on to Cryoblast, it's pretty simple, all at the bottom. So Cryoblast is Radius, Cryo Explosion, and Frozen Vulnerability. This is 25% more damage taken to enemies and 50% weaken armor. So overall, it's really good debuff, especially against bosses and most enemies. Now moving on to Quarian Defender, I recommend Damage and Capacity, Power Damage, and then finally Weapons Damage, just for some bonus. Now for Fitness, once again, I recommend Shield, Durability, and then Shield Recharge. Now, if you reset the turret, then you can get the Fitness Expert, which is a lot better. I personally just do not use the turret. I don't like it. The Geth turret is a billion times better, so keep that in mind. Alright, moving on to the Salarian Engineer, who is by far one of the most used engineers just because of Decoy. Decoy is mainly used for camping, for platinum farming, gold farming against Geth, as you may know. Blue, 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 blah, 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 boring as shit. I don't do that. So my build is more or less one that doesn't use Decoy. I don't think Decoy is good because I don't like to run around. I don't like to sit back and camp. I like to run around. So that's the problem here with this build, is that if you guys feel like you want to camp, then you're going to want Decoy. If you want to run around, then you can use this build, my build. The gun I recommend for him is actually the Cerberus Harrier. The Cerberus Harrier is, once again, one of the best assault rifles in the game. And he's more or less, the way you want to play with him is that you more or less want to kind of stay further back. He's not an infiltrator. You can't get in point blank with a shotgun and be safe. So, you know, you do want to stay kind of further back, and the Harrier can definitely help you with that. So once again, I recommend extended barrel and extended magazine. Now for the build, like I said, no decoy on this build. This is not meant for camping. For the energy drain, I like radius, drain, and then damage. For the incinerate, I like damage, burning damage, and once again armor damage. For the Salarian operative, I like damage and capacity, power damage, and then weapons damage. And for fitness, I like all shields. That's pretty much the way I like to set him up. I don't like decoy when I'm playing with him. I have built him multiple times trying to use decoy, and every time I've ever played with him, I've never once used decoy. Or if I did, I never once used it good. because decoy is all about just sitting back and letting the enemies come to you and then letting them attack the decoy. So if you're trying to run around with this, it's no good. Alright, moving on to the Geth Engineer, who is by far, in my opinion, the best engineer. I like him the best. I know some of you guys are going to disagree and say that the ones with the grenades, the Quarian, and the Demolisher are the best. But I just don't like grenade spamming. I don't really find that to be... It's so easy just to sit there and throw arc grenades the whole time. So in my opinion, I like the Geth Engineer the best, and I do think that he is the best one because he helps your team, he helps you, he's really, really good. The gun I recommend for him is actually the Service Harrier. Now one unique thing about the Geth Engineer compared to all other engineers is that almost every gun is amazing on him because of hunter mode. So the Service Harrier is not the only good gun. You can use the Talon, you can use the Hurricane, you can use the Saber, you can use any gun you want. So honestly, it's really up to you what gun you want. But in my opinion, I personally think that the Service Harrier is the best for the Geth, or at least the Geth Engineer, that is. Alright, now moving on. For this build, for the Geth turret, I recommend shield restore and recharge range. I mean, not recharge, but restore range. Just because these two right here, like, this turret can be offensive, and it's pretty good when it's offensive, but it just doesn't help. It's more selfish that way. It's better just to have the turret for healing you and your teammates, so that you can throw it out in one general area and heal your teammates, or if you see your teammate under fire, you can just throw him the turret, and I mean, believe me, he will appreciate that. He'll be like, oh man, thank you, your turret just saved me, and you're like, yeah, I know. You know, so that's good. That's the reason why I like it. And you don't need the last one, because all this does is makes it so that the turret will heal you more often, but the thing is it's better just to throw out the turret when you need to be healed, or to throw out the turret when you think your teammate needs to be healed. Now, if you're going to be trying to camp and stay back, then yeah, this is better. This is good, because then you can just throw out the turret and let the turret just keep healing you and your teammates. But me personally, when I'm running around, I just throw it out when I need it. So if I need it or my teammate needs it, I will throw it out. Alright, now for hunter mode, I recommend weapons accuracy, rate of fire, and damage. The reason why I recommend all this is because this is all for mainly for weapons. This way, like with these two right here, you'll be able to put any weapon you want on them, and the weapon will be better. So the Piranha, anything you want, any gun you can think of will be better with more rate of fire and more accuracy. That's pretty much a given. Alright. My bad, guys. Moving on to overload, this is the same as you've seen it before. Chain overload, recharge speed, and shield damage, like I said, is super good. But with hunter mode, it's even better, so keep that in mind. Now for Network AI, I recommend weapons damage, because like I said, he is by far the best weapon wielding engineer in the game. Power damage, and then finally weapons damage. And then for fitness, I do like to keep my fitness at least at 3, but maxing out your fitness for this guy is, in my opinion, not really that smart. The only thing I really like is the shield recharge. Just because with hunter mode, I mean, literally, if you invest the points into all fitness with the Geth, I really want to make this clear. If you invest the points into all the fitness, you literally walk away with about maybe 200 points of shields more than what I get from 3 points. That's just really not worth it in my opinion. I just rather go for more of this stuff than more fitness. So, and if you strap on a Cyclonic 4 or 3, you'll be fine. Like, he actually gets plenty of shields that way. Alright, moving on to the Quarian Male Engineer. Quarian Male is also by far considered to be one of the best engineers, and I would say, in my opinion, I like him the second best. So let's go ahead and get into it. For the gun, I recommend the Talon, just for setting up tech burst once again, just like the other Quarian. So I recommend piercing and extended barrel. So the idea is that you want to strap on a Disruptor Rounds 4 or Disruptor Rounds 3, and this gun will set up so quick. I mean, like 1 or 2 shots, you'll set them up. Now, the greatest thing about the Quarian Male is that he is by far the best in the game at setting up his own tech burst. I mean, he is amazing. You throw a grenade, you incinerate, tech burst. But if you don't have a grenade, then the Talon can set up your tech burst. So you can just keep doing tech burst, tech burst, tech burst, and that's what makes him so godly. All right, now for the build. Tactical scan, I leave it at 3. It can come in handy, so keep that in mind. This can come in handy. But once again, I actually recommend resetting him if you can. Get the tactical scan off. If you're going to use it, by far, I mean, by all means, use it. But me personally, it is a forgettable power. I just forget I have it. I don't ever waste the time to put it on. The animation takes forever, so that's just how I feel about it. But it is a decent debuff. But I only recommend it at 3 ever. That's just the thing. Now for Incinerate, I recommend Radius. The reason for Radius is because your grenades have Radius, so you can actually set up multiple people for a tech burst. That's what the grenades do so great. They set up tech bursts so easily. So because you can set up so many people for a tech burst, you want the Radius just in case. Like, you know, that way, boom, you hit the enemy, and then the other enemy will also detonate. So you get like a double detonation. That's just the idea. Burning damage just for more DPS. Like I said, DPS is good. And then armor damage once again. For the arc grenades, I recommend damage. Electrical damage, now that's the important part. This is what allows you to set up tech bursts so easily. This is the thing that makes tech bursting so easy. And then finally, shield overload. I like shield overload personally. I know a lot of people like the armor piercing, but I like the shield overload because I want to be able to do as much damage to the normal infantry enemies in the game. And by having this, when you throw your grenade and then you use your Incinerate to detonate your tech burst, this will like pretty much kill them. So that's just the way I feel about it. Armor piercing is good. I like this better for the Quarian Male Infiltrator, but I like the shield overload better for the Quarian Male Engineer. And the other thing too is I have Incinerate, so any armor target in the game, I can just Incinerate and then shoot with my gun to kill. I don't necessarily need the grenades to kill the bigger enemies like brutes and banshees and such. So that's just how I feel about it. Now for Quarian Defender, I recommend damage and capacity and power damage. Now I also recommend the weapons damage if you decide not to get the tactical scan, if you want to reset him. So weapon damage, in my opinion, is better and more important than just the tactical scan. Mainly because, like I said, I don't use it. If you feel that you're going to use it, then by all means, use it. And then for fitness, just all shield stuff, obviously. Alright, now moving on to the final one, the Demolisher, which is definitely also considered to be one of the best engineers. I don't like him because I don't really like grenades that much. Not saying that grenades are bad, just saying that I don't like using grenades. I feel it's too cheap. But, yes, he's definitely one of the best in the game, by far. And when it comes down to camping or to farming platinum or gold, he is like so important. So that's just a thing. The gun I actually recommend for him is actually the Cerberus Harrier. The reason why is because we all know the Cerberus Harrier has really shitty ammo. Well, the Demolisher doesn't have to worry about that because you just throw out your shield, your supply pylon, and you can restock your ammo anytime you want. So the Cerberus Harrier is by far my personal favorite gun for him. Now, a lot of people always try to do this. I'll show you real quick. They strap the Typhoon on him, and they strap the Piranha on them, and they have like this huge negative. I don't like that, honestly. I know that a lot of people say, well, you don't need to worry about your recharge speed because you can just throw out the pylon, let it sit there, and then go to it anytime you need grenades. I like to run around, so I like to be able to throw it out in different areas. And I like to be able to throw it out when I need grenades instead of waiting for it to recharge. So that's just the thing, guys. That's how I feel about it. So I like to at least have a positive recharge speed so it's not like 1 minute long. I mean, literally the recharge speed can be 1 minute long for the supply pylon. Alright, now for the build. For the supply pylon, I recommend resupply frequency just because this will allow you to it's gonna make it so the can't talk right, but the ammunition will regenerate faster, and the grenades will regenerate faster. So that's just the thing. And for the supply pylon, I like the power damage just in case I am gonna camp and I'm gonna stay back. Because if I throw it out and I stand in it, or if my other teammates stand in it, our powers will do more damage, especially if you have multiple. And I mean multiple Demolishers. I mean, this will stack up to be like 45% for everyone. And that's freaking godly. So that's just a thing. And then finally, extra grenade, which will allow you to get 2 grenades instead of 1, which is definitely the best thing to go for. Now for the grenades, for the arc grenades, I recommend damage. Once again, electrical damage for tech bursting, and then shield overload. This guy, definitely shield overload is a lot better for this guy, just because there's no point to go for the armor piercing, because these grenades really aren't meant for armor. And the grenades that are meant for armor are the homing grenades. So for the homing grenades, I recommend damage, fire damage, which is pretty much just like incinerate, 50% DPS over time, and then armor damage, which is what's insane. I mean, these grenades do so much damage to grenades, and by far these grenades are probably the best grenades in the game now. For a long time, the lift grenades were like the best, and then the arc grenades were the best, and now the homing grenades are pretty much about the best. So just keep that in mind. And it also makes it so that when you hit them with this, it will debuff them by 50% for weapon damage. So, oh my freaking god, you one homing grenade to a brute and then you shoot it, it's gonna die super quick. Now for the N7 Demolisher, I recommend damage and max grenades, power damage, and then finally power damage. A lot of people like this whole extra grenade and weapons damage thing, which is okay, but I personally like the power damage because he's all about grenades. If he's all about grenades, give him as much power damage as possible. That's just how I feel about it. And you get 10 grenades if you use grenade capacity 5 with this, so you really don't need 11 grenades. I don't see the point. Alright, so that was all the engineers. I really hoped you enjoyed it. Like I said, the engineers are probably by far considered to be like the second best in the game to the infiltrators, but yeah, they're godly, and there's a lot of good ones. Pretty much these 3 right here are the best ones in the game, or at least considered to be the best ones in the game. And I would probably agree with that for the most part, but I would say this. I would say Geth Engineer, Quarian Male Engineer, and then Demolisher. That's just how I feel, though. That's my opinion. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please like this video. That can definitely help me out. And like always, guys, have a nice day.